If you're watching this video, just know, your mental health matters, your life matters, and of course, you matter. I, BC King, care about you. Welcome back to Gaming Hot Takes, a series where I read your hottest takes about various video games. In today's video, I'll be reading your hottest takes about The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. As always, hot takes can be positive things, negative things, praises, criticisms, or anything in between about a certain game. So with that said, let's get right into your hot takes for today's episode. Wait a minute, hold on. Before we start, I gotta give a very special shout out to my sponsor for this video, Fluffle. If you adore anime plushies, graduation plushies, and more, then this website is for you. Use the code BCKing15 to save 15% on your first purchase. And use the link that is in the description. And come on, who wouldn't want one of these things? These things are amazing. Go get yourself a plushie because they're amazing. With that said, now let's get into the video. Not being able to attack diagonally hurts what is otherwise a fantastic game. That is fair. I don't know if this game really requires you to be able to do that. It would be cool for sure. You know, having 8 instead of 4 directions to swing your sword in would be nice, but from my experience, this game doesn't really need to have diagonal attacking. It'd be cool for sure, but I don't think you really need to have it. I think having 4 is good enough for the game's design, like the enemy design, the world design. Now if there is like a direct remake of this game and on like Switch 2 or something, for example, then maybe they can add that as a new feature where you can attack diagonally. But for the original game, I thought it was fine. Like, you know, yeah, it'd be cool to like have more directions to attack in, but for this game, I think having only 4 and because the combat for me was good enough, I feel like, you know, diagonal attacking wasn't really something I needed that badly, but I can see why people would prefer to have it. I wish there was more to the Great Pyramid than dropping in to fight Ganon. That's not a knock on the game, I just wanted more areas to explore. The Ice Rod could have been used more as well, same for the Magic Cape. So your first take here about the Great Pyramid being used for more than just the Ganon boss fight, I'm honestly okay with that because there's a hot take coming up that we'll get into, which touches more on the dungeons. But this game has the most dungeons of any Zelda game, I think, and at that point I'm kind of done with the dungeons. I'm kind of okay with just, you know, having this giant pyramid and it's only used for the final boss fight, because I've already gone through like so many dungeons. I'm kind of done at that point. So, I didn't mind that. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to explore, like, you know, what the inside was like besides the Ganon boss fight, but, because you go through so much dungeons already beforehand, I was just okay with that. And your second take here, the Ice Rod could have been used more and the Magic Cape. This is kind of a reoccurring theme in, like, almost every Zelda game. I feel like some items are always used consistently, and then they always have some items that just are not used a lot outside of the dungeon. A good example is the spinner in Twilight Princess. I love that item so much, but you don't really use it outside of the Arbiter's grounds. Like, you know, using it in that dungeon is fantastic. I love the puzzles there, but outside of the dungeon, you don't really use it a lot, and that's kind of a thing for most items in Zelda games. Like, you use them in the dungeon a lot, and then once you're outside in the overworld, you don't really find a whole lot of use for them besides the dungeon. So, yeah, this is a common thing across every Zelda game. This game is not the only victim of this, but honestly, at this point, it might just be a reoccurring theme in every Zelda game from here on out. So, you know, expect more items to be used more consistently, and some to, like these two you mentioned, to be used not as frequently. The Dark World wasn't dark enough to reflect the heart of an evil wizard. It was just depressing and weird looking, rather than scary and twisted. It was kind of a disappointing mechanic. So I disagree a lot here. You gotta realize that Nintendo is still, nowadays, mostly for, like, younger people and kids, and even back then especially, they really did play it safe with, like, characters and world design and making it not seem too, you know, too dark and twisted or bloody or nightmarish. So, I thought it was fine. I mean, it's just another copy of the Light World with darker elements, darker enemies, some areas changed up, and it's all it needed to be, really. Like, they never really needed to make this whole, you know, fully different world that was, you know, way beyond the Light World. It was just another version of the world you already explored with, like, you know, darker elements to it. So, I was fine with it. And, yeah, it wasn't really disappointing. It's like, you know, would it be a little bit cooler to have, like, a whole new world that wasn't just based on the Light World? Maybe, but, like, with the story they were telling, it kind of made sense to have just another copy of that world with just darker things to it. So I was fine with it, you know? Like, again, they were never gonna be like, you know, making this nightmarish world with like fucking zombies and bloody creatures and, you know, whatever else. Because again, Zelda is sort of a kid-friendly franchise, mostly, even at this time especially. So, I thought it was great, and, you know, I want to see more of that kind of world design because it worked. I would hope they, you know, maybe do more experiments with, like, you know, changing more things up versus just a couple things. But yeah, I enjoyed the Dark World. I thought it was a really cool thing to have in this game. It's a shame that this game ended up as the forgotten great Zelda game, as any pre-Ocarina of Time game other than Zelda 1 does not really get talked about much. Even for the official anniversary, merchant amiibos they often skip from Zelda 1 to Ocarina of Time. So you think this game is forgotten? Because that could not be more false. People still think this is the single best Zelda game of all time, compared to like the 3D Zeldas. So I wouldn't agree there. I'm not sure what you're getting at. I mean, you mentioned the merch and the amiibos. I mean, that doesn't really mean they forgot about the game. I just feel like maybe Ocarina, Majora, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword are just more marketable nowadays with like official merch and stuff and such. But I don't think that means that they have forgotten A Link to the Past at all, because this is still an iconic game, not just for Zelda, but for all games in general. So, I wouldn't really take merch and amiibo as a reason that they don't like Link to the Past, because, you know, it's stuff that you can buy if you want to, but you don't have to. I don't think them, you know, not releasing Link to the Past stuff means they don't care about the game at all. So, yeah, this game is definitely not forgotten. People still love it. People still think it's the best Zelda game of all time. It's in my top 10 for sure. Not sure where, but it's definitely up there. So, yeah, this game is definitely not forgotten. People love it, and people will never forget about it. A Link to the Past is better than any 3D Zelda. I'll die on that fucking hill. Here's the thing, man. You are definitely not alone. There are still a lot of people out there that prefer the 2D games over the 3D ones, and like you mentioned here, I feel like a lot of people would put this game over, you know, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm not someone who agrees with that. I think, for me, 3D Zelda is more for me than 2D Zelda, but I adore Link to the Past. Like, here's the thing. Zelda is such a good franchise. It is so iconic and spectacular that, like, 10 of its games can be considered the best in its series. Like, Link to the Past, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Majora's Mask, Ocarina, Wind Waker. There's just so many games that can be either someone's favorite or considered the best in the entire series. So, if that's your preference, then that's okay. There's really no argument there. Like, even though I don't agree with it, like, I respect it because this game really is fantastic. So, if you're someone who prefers Link to the Past over, you know, modern 3D Zelda, then that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. This series is such high quality that, again, if you like any of these 10 games that I threw out there just now, but even stuff like Link's Awakening and then the Oracle games and even Zelda 1, like, again, no argument. They're such high quality, and, you know, there's really no, like, wrong answer as far as what you think is the best Zelda game besides Zelda 2. That game sucks, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, and I think it's a good one. Like, if you prefer this game over 3D Zelda, then that's great. I think a lot of people would probably agree with that. Some of the dungeons were not designed properly for when you die in the boss room. I'm a completionist, and even with max health, you get reset back to the beginning of the dungeon, and it'd be almost impossible to get back to the boss rooms with a legitimate amount of health to beat them. I mean, that is a issue in, like, almost every Zelda game. The punishment for losing to a boss can be a little bit too extreme, where you're sent back to the start of the dungeon, you're sent back to a room far away from the boss room. So I think this game definitely is probably worse than the other one, or worse than others, because, like, you're sent back to the very start of the dungeon, so unless you know where the boss room is exactly, it can be kind of a pain to get back there. I think, obviously, the newer games, like the ones after Link to the Past, are more forgiving in terms of, you know, spawning you close to the boss room or, like, in the boss room. But yeah, back then, I mean, that was just a common thing in, like, most NES and SNES games, where the punishment for losing was really extreme. Like, in Mario Bros, for example, on NES, you get sent back to the very start of the game if you die at any point. So, that was just classic 90s game design that I'm glad is gone these days, because, you know, boss fights are a lot harder and a lot more, you know, cinematic and complex, so, you know, being more forgiving with, like, people dying is kind of required at this point, so, yeah, back then, though, I understand where you're coming from. It was kind of a pain to, you know, get sent back to the start of the dungeon, have to go all the way back to the boss room, but, thankfully nowadays, that's kind of not a thing. Hopefully they keep it that way, because, it was always a pain back in the 90s. Stop! Now she'll die a virgin, stop! Stop it! Okay. Stop. Okay.
Stay the fuck in the fucking car!
Oh, fuck! That was a sneak peek of all the content that you might be missing out on by not becoming a YouTube member. When you're a YouTube member, you get so much bonus content, such as all my anime watch-throughs, classic content like old Twitch streams, movie watch-alongs, and more. So what are you waiting for? Hit the join button down below, pick the tier you want, and enjoy all the benefits that come with your YouTube membership. If you're already a member, thank you for your support, enjoy your benefits, and now let's get back into the video. The only flaw in this game is having just one dungeon music theme. I kind of agree with this, actually. I think my favorite dungeons of all time are, you know, on my list because of their music. And when you have a game that's just, you know, using only one theme for its dungeons, it kind of makes the dungeons not feel as memorable, in my opinion. Even if, like, the puzzles are, you know, great and the boss is great. I feel like the music really does help capture the atmosphere of each individual dungeon. So when you have a game that's just only using one theme, it's like you really can't separate every dungeon by atmosphere, because the song is the same no matter where you go. So yeah, I think for me, I maybe wouldn't even put any of these dungeons in this game on, like, or near my, like, top dungeon list, but not because they're bad, but because I do prefer having dungeons that have their own theme, like their own separate, you know, atmospheric theme, versus just having the same theme repeated over and over and over again. So, yeah, I agree here. The soundtrack overall, I think, is fantastic. It's very iconic, but, yeah, I do wish there was more than one dungeon theme, because, again, my favorite dungeons of all time are where they are because the song is fantastic, and the atmosphere, you know, is captured really well because of the song. So, yeah, I actually agree here. I hate how no other Zelda game has as many dungeons as A Link to the Past. Even the final boss rush dungeon, Ganon's Tower, is a full-fledged dungeon with big key and dungeon item. Since then, the series has had fewer and fewer dungeons, with the most recent game only having 5. So I mentioned in a previous hot take that we get to one that kind of, brings more of the dungeon problems up, and, yeah, I mean, I mentioned that this game has, the most dungeons of any game in the series, with 12, and, yeah, they've been kind of having less and less over the years, because, Tears of the Kingdom has only 5, and, I mean, they're good for what they are, but, like, you know, this game, because it was, you know, smaller in scope, and, you know, the graphics weren't as demanding and whatnot, and the hardware wasn't as demanding, they had more dungeons. So, honestly, if we get another 2D game, like, maybe Echoes of Wisdom sort of thing, or, whatever, I haven't played that game, by the way, I do kind of hope they make more compact dungeons versus, like, these big, giant, open dungeons, because it does allow for more of them to be in the game, because, you know, Tears of the Kingdom makes sense, right, with there only being 5, because they're all pretty expansive, they all have, you know, build-ups to the dungeon, so, it does make sense why they lessened the dungeons, the dungeon number versus other games in the series. But I do kind of wish we get a game coming up that, you know, makes maybe, like, smaller, compact dungeons that are still fun to do, but it allows for more to be in the game overall. So, yeah, I agree. I do kind of want to see, like, maybe, like, 10 at the very least, or, like, maybe 10 maximum for any game coming up. That'd be great. But, yeah, 5 is kind of too low. I agree. Like, even, like, 6 might be a bit too low. I think the sweet spot for me is, like, maybe 8 or 9. And then 10 is probably the max I would want. But yeah, I agree here. This game's dungeons were all good. And I want to see more in other games, and hopefully they actually do that. A Link Between Worlds is better. I know it's a pretty simple hot take, but I do want to include it because it is still an argument that goes on to this day. What game is better, Link to the Past or Link Between Worlds? And people still argue this. People still think 3DS is better, SNES is better, and it's still going on. Now, personally, I would say, if I was to answer this, I would say I adore Link to the Past just slightly more. Not by a lot, but like slightly more. But I still love Link Between Worlds. It's still a fantastic game. But I would put Link to the Past above this game. But they're both fantastic games. But yeah, this argument has been going on for like over a decade now, and people are still debating this. As far as what game is better. So honestly, there is no wrong answer. Like, if you like either game more than the other, that's fair. But yeah, they're both high quality games. They're both some of the best in the entire series. So honestly, either one is the right answer. I love Link to the Past, but I'm fatigued with this version of Hyrule. After Link Between Worlds on 3DS and the relatively similar map in Echoes of Wisdom, I'm just kinda over it and want to see something different next time. That is an extremely fair take, actually. I am also someone who is done with the World and Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. Like, that world was fantastic, but I'm kinda over that world by now. I've already explored, like, you know, every inch of that world as much as I could, so I'm done with that world as well, and I agree here. If they do make a game, or a 2D game for Zelda again, I do kind of hope they finally strive away from this world that's like Link to the Past or something, because again, even if you change certain things about it, if the core of the world is still the same, people will kind of get bored of it. Even if the game is good, like, you know, you can't just milk that world over and over and over again, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I agree. I do hope they, you know, maybe build a whole entire world from scratch, or, you know, just don't use the same world and add just a couple new things to it to make it stand out, because that's cool and all, but, like, again, the central core of the world is the same as Link to the Past, so, yeah, I agree here. I hope if a 2D Zelda game comes in the future, once again, that they make either a new world from scratch, or just don't use the same world again, because, yeah, people, I think, nowadays are, you know, these games are great, but the world is getting kind of boring for them. The Master Sword is kind of disappointing when you look back on it, especially once you get to the Dark World and everything seems to take 3 or more hits. I know it can actually be improved, which is weird for a legendary weapon, yeah, but then it is outright replaced by the Golden Sword. That is fair. I mean, for me, the most disappointing thing about the Master Sword was always in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because that weapon is, you know, kind of permanent. You can't really lose it, so, I think there are other games that maybe have a worse use of the Master Sword versus this game, but I definitely agree with what you're saying here. You know, having the Gold Sword be like an outright replacement was kind of weird. And yeah, the Dark World, because it is a Dark World and the Master Sword is like a light weapon, it does more damage to darker enemies in the Dark World. So, yeah, it could have been better handled, but there are probably other games I can mention that maybe could have made the Master Sword a little bit more, you know, maybe make it more useful, or make it, you know, not be replaced by something like another weapon. Because also, Ocarina is a good example too, because in that game, the Master Sword is great, but like, you can get the Bigoron Sword, which is, you know, better for doing attacks and whatnot, and actually, like, you know, beating bosses especially, so... Yeah, I kind of wish they would just stop adding weapons that, you know, are better than the Master Sword, because Master Sword is supposed to be this epic, you know, #1 weapon that Link uses to, you know, slay everybody, and you keep adding weapons that are always better than the Master Sword, and it's just like, why would we want the Master Sword anymore, you know? Why? Why would we want it? Like, there's always gonna be a weapon that's better than it, so, you know, it kind of takes away from the whole point of the Master Sword being the best weapon in the entire game, and in all of Zelda, because there's always stuff better than it, so... Yeah, I agree with what you're saying here. The beginning was one of the best beginnings a video game could give you. I definitely agree. It is not my favorite Zelda opening ever. I'd probably get that to either Tears of the Kingdom, or maybe even, like, Wind Waker to an extent. Maybe even, like, Ocarina. But this opening really is cool. Like, the rain coming down, you're finding your uncle in the sewer. You get to the castle, like, almost right away to help Zelda and whatnot. So it is a great opening. I agree. It's not my favorite opening of all time, but I think it is for sure one of the most iconic openings of all time. This opening is fantastic. You know, it sets a tone for the whole entire game. Does a great job of that. So Yeah, not my favorite Zelda opening of all time, but it maybe could be considered the most iconic opening in Zelda history, even though I don't personally agree with that. Alright folks, that is it for your Link to the Past hot takes. And as always, I'm sure that some of you watching this have a hot take that you want to send in for a future game, so make sure you guys are following the BC King Gaming Hot Takes Reddit page. Link is right here or in the pinned comment, so go check that out when you can. But in the meantime, make sure you guys subscribe, ring the bell, and smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video. And I will see you guys, as always, in the next one. Goodbye, everybody!